Mr. Render, you'll be recording today, correct?
Yes, with
Okay.
bells on. I'll be
Okay.
here.
All right, we are ready. We are ready to start streaming and start the meeting, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, welcome everyone to the Fair Housing Board meeting, City of Cleveland, October meeting. I'd like to begin the meeting 12:34 p.m., October 20th. And I'd like to do a roll call. I'm going to call out names. Everybody can just say aye or present. Genesis.
Here.
Philip.
Here.
Robert.
Here.
Eugene. Eugene.
He's first in the class. Did you see his hand up?
Okay. He doesn't have his mic turned on, but he's here. He's present.
He's
Okay.
here.
And Miss Souza. Okay. Okay. Welcome, everyone. I'd like everybody to take a second to review the minutes of the last meeting, and then I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Was that Phil?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Okay. We have a motion to accept the minutes. Do I have a second?
That's you.
Second.
Okay. Minutes are approved for the last meeting. Miss Souza.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. So we're still holding this meeting live online, and it's being streamed via YouTube on our Fair Housing channel. And I'm going to share the agenda. It was emailed to everyone, which is real quick. I'll go through what we're going to discuss today during our meeting. All right, so I have for today's meeting, I'm going to give you an update first on the operations for City Hall. The mayor has expressed interest in having the staff come back to the office soon. And for us, it might be next week or the following week. It will probably be regular schedule, but not completely open to everyone, or it should still be by appointment to the general public. And it still be worked out, because as everything transitioned, we also know that the county just went back to red, so things could change. So in terms of the meetings for council and even our meetings, they'll still continue online through this platform, just because it's very volatile, the situation. But you will start to hear probably some more openings, staff going back, but we're still working through that. So we'll see in the next couple of weeks. So I'll give you an update as we know it. Also, many of you guys heard our director will leave, unfortunately, the department. She has a position as the CEO of the neighborhood housing program or project. So I'm a little sad, because she's been great for our department. So we wish her well, and I believe this week, at the end of this week, it's her last official week with the department. The assistant director, will be taking her place for now, and someone is assigned, and everything else will continue. My role, it's kind of under assistant director Walker right now anyways. I report to him because since I've been working more with the rent assistance, right to council, in addition to fair housing. So in terms of my role, nothing will change. We'll just miss the director. So we have any questions on anything so far? All right. And I unmuted everyone. If anyone needs to talk, I'll make sure you unmute yourself. Then in terms of calls and emails, they'll continue to be monitored, whether I'm here, whether I'm remote or in the office, and it will probably be a back and forth. But regardless, I always, check the emails and calls and attend to any needs from the residents. And then I already discussed about the board meetings moving forward. We'll still continue under this environment. Then,
Where you muted?
yeah, I think when I
You're
go back,
muted.
yeah, okay, can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Yeah, when I go back, it mutes me automatically. So thank you. So as I was just this morning in a city council committee meeting giving an updated presentation on the rental assistance program. And since I have a beautiful PowerPoint ready, I wanted to share with you guys the presentation as well. I know I have been informing you guys about the program since I'm managing the implementation of the rental assistance program for the city of Cleveland. And this presentation will give you a quick overview, but also an update where we are today. Always good for you guys as community leaders and members of the board to just be informed. And also this platform, since now we're broadcasting it, someone might listen to the information that will find it helpful because we definitely know there's a lot more need out there than what we're seeing. And we're still seeing a lot of applications, but any way that we could spread the word, it will be great.
You did a good job, so I'm gonna be quiet. I already, I've seen it already, so I'm just gonna.
Oh, you were in the. Oh, okay, good.
Seen it,
I
already
just know
seen
every.
it. So
Did
I'll
you
let
meet,
my colleagues see it without me talking. I'll listen.
did you meet?
Okay, and
did you
I'll
meet-
try to go quicker. Like there are about several slides, but I'm glad you already saw it. So it's good, and sorry if you have to hear it again. So
did
I'll
you
go
meet
ahead
the-
and.
Did you meet with city council as a whole or just a committee?
It was a committee, yeah.
Okay.
It was an update. Not the whole department, only on the CARES Act and the Healthy Home Initiative, and then I did a presentation on the rental assistance. And it went well. I think they could see it was a new program, and we have worked really hard. So it was a way for them to see where we are, and if they had any questions. So yeah. So now since it's done, I'm like, let me just share it with you guys. All right. So I'm gonna share the presentation. PowerPoint. Okay, so this is the CIPCO Rental Assistance Program. And I know I had gone through some of the information with you guys, but it's a quick overall review because as a lot of people listen to these that might not have heard it or those that are hearing it again. So the rental assistance program, we put it together at the end of the spring in an emergency situation, and it was due to the COVID-19 pandemic. In the CARES Act funding that we received, and the majority, like a big bulk of the money, was utilized for the rental assistance, since we anticipated back in when we were discussing how to use the money back in March and April, that rental assistance will be one of the key needs, and it has proven that definitely it is. And CHN Housing Partners and Eden partnered to administer the rental assistance program. So it was a joint application, and they were selected to administer the program. So it's implemented by the city, funded, and they're the ones that will be administrating the program. The funds are a mix of CDBG dollars and money from the Coronavirus Relief Fund from the CARES Act. It was a joint effort. Cuyahoga County and the city are using the same platform, the same one-stop shop for all of our residents. The $11.3 million from city, it's all 100% from the CARES Act. And then the Cuyahoga County, they have different sources of funds that they're using for this. Now, moving forward, the rest of the slides, it will be specifically for the numbers for the city of Cleveland, and they're updated as of yesterday, October 19. So just a quick overview, who qualifies is for residents of the city of Cleveland that have been affected by the pandemic with affected their ability to pay rent, and this is after April 1st. So we are paying starting any back due amounts starting April 1st up to this day and moving forward. For the residents to be eligible, they must have an income of 120% AMI or less. And for the initial emergency assistance, which is the first 4 months, they self-certify their income. So they indicate in the self-certification form their income and how they were affected by COVID-19. Then after they use the first 4 months, Eden, the part 2 of the program, will be able to help them further, but that requires more documentation, basically. So to qualify for Eden's ongoing rental assistance, which is after the initial 4 months of emergency assistance, they have to have an ongoing need of not being able to pay it after they have already received the payment from CHN for the first 4 months. They also must live in the city of Cleveland. The households must be at 50% or below AMI. So the income level, it's for more critical situations also. And the tenants that need the program are referred directly by CHN Housing Partners. So they can just walk in or go to Eden directly. We design it so they refer, and it's one-stop shop. And once they fill the application, seamlessly, they're just will be referred to Eden for additional assistance. Submitted, then the tenant will have to submit additional documentation once they are done with CHN and that the emergency assistance for the first 4 months. Then, one second. And then an overview of how it works. So CHN serves as the entry point for everything. So first they go to the website that was created, neorenthealth.org, which is in Spanish and English. And also there's a phone number, the 833-377-RENT. And I know one of the questions that from the council meeting we just had about other languages, and that's definitely a concern. Since I started implementation, I wanted to make sure we had language availability and be able to serve all of our residents. So since Spanish is the most predominant, everything was designed bilingual. The website, there's a live on staff bilingual person in Spanish and English. Now for other languages, the CHN is utilizing nonprofit organizations around the community that are able to help with any other languages. And it's part of the network partnership that they had, and they'll continue to have for this program. For example, one of them they share with me, it's the Refugee Center. They offer a lot of different help in different languages. And additionally, most of the people that need other languages, whether it is Chinese or Arabic, most of those clients are coming from those nonprofit organizations that serve them. So we already had the connection of being able to, and the language accessibility that way. And also that was part of the effort when we started the program to distribute information to all of our community partners across different sectors. So at least awareness is there. Someone goes and whichever agency in their own native language and they need rental assistance, at this point, we're pretty confident that they know about the program because we have distributed information. Priority it's giving to tenants that are already in the eviction process. Then if an applicant qualifies, a check for up to 4 months will be sent directly to the landlord. So payments are sent directly to the landlord. Additionally, CHN will refer Cleveland residents if they need 4 months to Eden. Now, in terms of how it works, once it gets to Eden, after the 4 initial months, Eden could provide up to an additional 9 months. There are monthly checkups once those tenants are working under Eden, and the eligibility for those funds, it's a little different because the funding comes from ESG and home dollars. One of the things, one of the requirements is that the income is 50% or lower for the household, and HUD requires full documentation. So full documentation will be needed, pay stub, bank statements, once they utilize the first 4 months and are transferred to Eden. Some of the things that Eden will do and require, it's an inspection. So assistance beyond those 4 months. With Eden, will require an inspection of the property or the property to be re-inspected. They will calculate income and arrange for subsidies. They will issue the rent payments directly to the landlords as well for those additional months after the 4 months, which will be another additional 9 or so. They would access and review all documentation every 3 months if there's still a need. So every 3 months, so it's not automatically they get the additional 9 months. Every 3 months, they'll verify if anything has changed. Communication, since it's one place where everything will be worked from, they still work and communicate well with CHN and also any referral partners. If the client went through an actual referral partner, they'll be able to communicate with CHN and also Eden. Then they also assess if the client needs additional support once they exceed all of this help. We're not there yet because we just started the program, so no one has exceeded 12 months and still needed assistance. So that will be something in the future to see where people are and depending how the situation continues. How residents are referred, they can apply on the website, neorenthealp.org, in English or Spanish. They could do it on a computer, any device, and also on their mobile phone. It works well. Documentation, they could take pictures and upload them that way. We made it as easy as possible, especially for the emergency portion. And residents that need additional help, if even though it's might be easy for most people, but if they still, maybe they don't have the right phone that could take pictures or they don't know how, and they need extra help, we do have referral agencies that are working with us, which are United Way 211, Frontline Services, Spanish American Committee, and Legal Aid. Those are the actual referral agencies. Plus, in the CDC's, the Healthy Home Initiative workers that we have, they're very aware of the program, and they're also able to help people if they need maybe a little more assistance, like filling out or maybe getting to the website or maybe scanning a document. So we have made it as easy as possible throughout the city because we understand that's why we're utilizing the CDC so we could reach people in all ends of the city. For qualifying and starting the application and having the application fully completed, they need basic documents, which I'm glad we have worked through a lot of this to make it as easy as possible and eliminate as many barriers as possible, and that HUD would allow us based on their guidelines. So for the initial 4 months of an emergency assistance, they just need to upload or submit a photo ID for all members of the household over 18, and they need a verification to prove their identity, either a social security card or a birth certificate, and they also need a lease agreement, which we could obtain early in the process or at the second part of the process at the end when we're verifying the information with the landlord. So we could obtain that later on. But a lease is required for the program. If they are referred to Eden, they will need additional documentation as I indicated. Applications are time-stamped, so we work on an order as they were received. I know a lot of people, especially at the beginning, and you see the numbers as why they're still working through the process. Maybe they haven't reached. CHN did hire at the beginning when we started this about 9 new staff members just to handle this, and you will see why it is at the beginning was a little slow because we had an overwhelming participation and need in the community. So the actual need that we saw, and this is what it would explain how we have been working through the program. This was thought out and the money was received and RFP were sent out April, May period, and the agencies were selected in June. When the program was announced, in 211 began taking actual names and basic information from people in June. Also, the Department of Community Development had a dedicated phone line, and email taking just basic information from people that will need help. By the time the program actually started, which was July 1st, by the time we selected the agency, they developed a brand new system, a new website. By that day, there were already 1,400 people on day one when the program officially started. So obviously, that's why it has been a little slow process to get everything started. Then by July 15, which is when it became operational, when the they started taking application July 1st, but actually working on everything July 15. We had about 1,900 people applying and an additional 1,900 people. So where we are today, and this is as of yesterday, the 19th, total applications submitted 3,584. That's for people that had entered information and clicked submit, but not necessarily maybe submitted the documents, but they had submitted the application. Total applications in eviction out of that total, 997, and they could be in different stages within the eviction process. Total applications in process that CHN it's already working on, 3,100. Those are for the people that have submitted documents, at least some documents, maybe they're missing something, but they're working through the process of verifying their information. And after the tenant submits information, it's verified, then we need to have the landlord's information. Once we have that, in order to issue the check and also verify how much they owed, then a check is sent. So that's kind of like the process. We have a 3,100 in that. Total money like that we're expecting already out of the people that have submitted that would sum the total that is needed is a little over $7 million. And the average rent that households need is about $2,000 that they're back due. This is for 4 months of payment. So that's the average that we're seeing, which is right in line what we expected. Now, these are the numbers for the people that actually completed the application, submitted all the necessary documents as a tenant. And now the file, it's just waiting for landlord verification or waiting for the checks to be issued, because CHN actually cuts checks to landlords every other Friday. Last time it was done, I was on the 9th. So this Friday, another set will go. So out of that, ready to be submitted and to go is a little over 2 million. So 2,140,000 that are actually down the pipeline, already approved and ready to go. They're just waiting for that next date for the checks to be cut. It's about 275,000, and payments that have actually gone out already in the mail. Landlords have received it and they're done with that part. It's about 737,000. What we're seeing, reasons for crisis, still overwhelmingly because of layoffs and furlough or reduced hours. There are other reasons like childcare expenses, medical bills, but overwhelmingly it's still layoffs and issues related to loss of income related to the job. We are still seeing the majority of the people that are in need are very low income or extremely low income individuals. And there is a portion of high income that are also experiencing. And a good thing that we are jointly doing this program with the county. For the city, there's a maximum income of 120. For the county, someone that lives in the city doesn't qualify because they make too much money normally, but they're laid off right now, experiencing what everyone is experiencing. Seamlessly, CHN will be able to help them using the county. So that's one of the benefits for our residents, that one application, one stop. In terms of demographics, we have race. Blacks, African Americans are the blue part, which is 70% of our applicants are Black African Americans. White, it's about 14%, and then others either chose not to respond or multiple races or mix. The application asks specifically for ethnicity, which is required how HUD wanted the reporting to be done, and people, individuals could choose either Hispanic or not Hispanic or choose not to respond. Out of the applicants that have chosen to respond, 7.89%, about almost 8% of the applicants are from Hispanic background. In terms of CIPCOs, we have East Side, West Side. I mean, we're glad to see that we are reaching all sectors of the community and the East Side and West Side and throughout the city of Cleveland. This is in terms of the actual dollar amounts that have been, this is for people that have submitted and are requesting money. So again, well balanced throughout the city that we're helping everyone. Some of the things that we're learning about the program, as of September, we had a lot of people that were stuck in the stage of they were ready to move forward with the application, but by the time they just have more than 3 months basically, and the emergency rental assistance only helps for the first 3 months. So we were not able, the files were not moving as much. And I would say we have great partners and CHN housing partners, because as we've experienced or noticed, it's a brand new program for everyone. So as we saw, okay, how can we help people better? Why is not working? Why is not moving fast enough? We noticed one of the problems is that the 3 months were not sufficient, because we're already in October. People have been experiencing problems paying the rent for much longer. So we decided, and the mayor approved, to move into 4 months of assistance for emergency. So that really helped, because if they were ready for the 3 months, they couldn't move forward unless CHN found another source to give them emergency, like real quick assistance. The good thing, CHN works with other sources of assistance, like from the state and others, but that took an additional 2 months of processing just to figure out where do they need to go, what are the requirements for that extra money. And those folks were not able to move immediately to Eden, because that would also slow them down even further, because at that point they would need additional documentation, and we're seeing that that's even more harder for people to gather. So transitioning the program into a 4 month emergency assistance has helped a lot. In terms of what we're seeing out there, a lot of people that are requesting funds or have gone through the whole process still say that they're not sure if they could pay next month's rent. So that's something that just the trend that we're seeing. Unfortunately, the pandemic is still going on. We had no idea when we were discussing this in April, May, where we will be. We were hoping better, but people are still experiencing loss of income or different problems that leads to not being able to pay rent. So that's something, as we look further in the months to come, we are just things that we're working through to be able to help people. There is also, we are seeing that the landlord, there's a little resistance from them accepting the payment. They're now required to do so if they could potentially continue with an eviction. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but there is resistance. And also, let's say there needs to be some type of negotiation or maybe a reduction. There is resistance from some of the landlords, but some are cooperating. So CHN helps them through that process. We have legal aid and we have frontline. And the idea it's for everyone to benefit. We understand a lot of landlords are also small. They might have 1 or 2 properties and they also need the money. So we're being, conscious about the needs of everyone to be able to move forward and the bottom line and not have people experience homelessness. So another thing that we're learning is that once they're submitted to Eden, definitely it's a drastic difference and slow down, because at that point they need full documentation required by HUD, which is a pay stubs, bank statements, and a lot of information. And people might not continue even though they have the need because they haven't submitted the documents or the process slows down. We are also seeing that it is much harder to actually prove the hardship due to COVID. The initial 4 months is a basic, they could state their issue. Sometimes it's harder to prove it. Obviously, if you lost the job, that's easy, but for people that have kids all day at home, maybe more groceries, those are harder to, how do you prove it? I mean, bigger groceries versus before, it's just more difficult. And these are just hard requires at that point, after the initial assistance with Eden, to provide more of a proof that their hardship is due to COVID. Another thing that we are seeing and learning from the program, it's that it requires an inspection for those additional months after the first 4 months with Eden. And the inspections are difficult and not everyone's passing them. So that's another barrier. What can you do? So this is for my Fair Housing Board members that I wanted to share, and anyone that might be listening, since now these meetings are kept in our YouTube platform. It's let people know, share the website on social media, or let people know to go to any rent help.org org, and there's a phone number if they need assistance. Let them know that there's help if they have a difficult time actually completing the application. If they need a little more hand helping, one of the referral sources. And if in doubt, if they don't know where to go, the CDCs, and they could direct them to those sources that they could help them a little more closely if necessary. So just letting people know about also, it's important, the rights. Tenants, we are seeing a lot of tenants are afraid to even apply. They don't think they will qualify. They make their own application conclusion and denier in their head. And I would definitely, tell people, just discourage that. If in doubt, if in need, apply. If they deny you, if you think you don't meet the income, if you don't think, for whatever reason, just apply, because we have a great team of experts and a lot of resources that perhaps the person qualifies, or they could find another way. Like I mentioned, if, I think I make too much income, I don't qualify for the city of Cleveland. The county has also a program. So, and they're jointly together. So they will qualify. So there are many reasons, letting them know. Also, self-eviction, it's illegal. No one could just evict you. They have to go through the housing court process. And to that, there is a moratorium on eviction from the CDC that I mentioned during our last meeting. So it's not as easy to evict you necessarily, but these are things that the tenant has to be proactive, because the landlord could file for the eviction because the courts are open. They need to complete the form for the CDC moratorium and eviction, and one of the requirements is that they actually apply for government assistance. And so this will be it. So before they can move further, they have to apply to be able to get some of those rights that they have out there. The moratorium, it's only basically a hold on the eviction. Rent will be due when it's over, unless it's continued. The moratorium from the CDC ends December 31st, 2020. So all it did is hold payment, but it doesn't forgive the payment or anything like that. The tenants still owe that money. So while you take advantage of that, people need to take advantage of the program and see if they qualify, and if they do, great. And if they don't actually have solutions, and not wait until January and be in a horrible position. So we have flyers that I know I had shared with the group. So please continue to share and let people know. And putting maybe the website on your social media will be great. And then that's it. Let me go back. Okay, so I just wanted, that's up to date where we are. And Eugene, I see you have a question. I can hear you. Unmute.
I gotta learn sign language. Why do they have to do an inspection? That's the first question. Why do they gotta do an inspection?
Okay,
I mean,
the inspection is for after they receive the first 4 months. No inspection is required, because the CARE Act provides different sources of funding. For the first 4 months of emergency assistance, that comes from CARES Act funding that are CDBG funding. The additional months, after month 4, they come from home and other sources of funding. They HUD basically modified and exempt and did a whole bunch of things for the CDBG funds to be used quicker without inspection and anything. But the home, they still have those requirements that have always been there if someone needs those type of funds. So they did not waive those. So that's why they need it. It's a HUD requirement, not us. Like our hands are tied. So they do anyone that needs over 4 months, they're more strict. They need to have a higher need. And definitely an inspection. And that is definitely a barrier at this point. Eden is working to see, they do a few things. Right now, it's a little limited, but they do re-inspections. They let them appeal if the landlord needs more time to fix any issues the house has. And they're trying to work with assistance. There is not a fund right now, but they have other sources, or we're trying to see if we could help landlords, if it's a minor things, but just to get inspection to keep the tenant, because those additional months are meant to prevent homelessness, because at that point it's someone experiencing, a worse situation. So short answer, hands are tied is just a HUD requirement.
Right. So the homeowner is being punished. He or she has not gotten paid because the tenant unfortunately lost their job or something. So now the homeowner, if it's a violation, he or she got to go fix their house, even though they haven't been compensated. That's all. It always seems to be anti-homeowner. If you're a homeowner, it's just you out of luck. But thanks.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, it's a bad situation, but we're trying to see if we could find sources to help them if it's depending on the type of issues they're having. But yeah. Any other questions? All right, Genesis.
I had two questions. First, are we able to include the fair housing information on the website?
I think CHN already has some type of disclosure in their website for like an equal, like one of those signs, like equal sign that represents that.
Well,
yeah.
Not just the protected classes, but if there's any questions, to feel free to reach out to the Fair Housing Board. So, and putting the information about the phone number there as well.
We don't have it specifically with that because a lot of the tenants are already in the property. So it's not, they wouldn't be necessarily denied, but it's I think in the main website for CHN. So that information is available. Plus with the partners, they do have a conversation with all the tenants. And if there's ever any issue, a lot of the I'm managing the program plus the Fair Housing Center. It's one of they're not one of our partners, but through the county, so they're still part of the program. Also, legal aid. So there's definitely an opportunity if a problem arises. I personally haven't seen much correlation with fair housing in lack of being able to pay rent because they're already tenants. They're already it's more of an issue of being able to pay. Where this comes in, there's people that are trying to advocate for source of income protection. And the movement I have shared with you guys it has been going on for years, trying to have a source of income protection. That's a place that fair housing could have come into place, but source of income is not protected. So right now the landlord could say, no, thank you. I'm still going to continue with the eviction. Pending right now, maybe the CDC moratorium, but let's say come January versus if source of income was a protected class under the fair housing, they will be more limited what could be done. And then fair housing will take place, at least in the local level with our ordinance. So we're always aware of those issues for sure.
To me, I see it as a great way to kind of promote the Fair Housing Board and the mission along with it. So what you said is that CHN does have it out there. So I think that's kind of the main thing that I was asking about. The second question is that the 3,100 that are still being worked through the process, is there any plans to help expedite them? Because it seems like there were about 450 that were processed since September. And it seems like there's a number to process through within a certain period of time. So is there any plans to work through that backlog?
Yeah, and that's something out of the things we learned. On day one, when this started, they had 1,900 plus 1,900. And so it accumulated while they were still hiring staff and getting everything together. One of the things, at this point, I will say, because I work very closely with CHN, and they have been very good about moving and figuring things out. They have been a great partner on this. At this point, the staffing has improved. They have, they just hired 10 people. I think that's together. The other part that right now is slowing things down, it's the fact that people owe more than expected. So a few weeks ago, it just happened. We were since July, August, we're like, what's going on? It's not moving. And it was the issue about, most people needed more than 4 months. And at that point, you decide, do we go either need inspection, need this, need all this document, and that'll go be another month or two, or do we go and find another help from the state? And that could be, like I said, another maybe 2-3 weeks, because now they might require something else. So that was the main thing right now. It's not so much the staffing issue. Right now, it's a requirements issue for people to be able to move forward. If the numbers actually drastically changed the last few weeks, there were very few that were completing the process. And it's like, now it's like a big jump the last 2-3 weeks because the major just approved in September. It just happened the 4 months. And that was also the department in CHN working closely, like what's going on. Because every week I get reports and I look closely, I have a conversation, like one with CHN to see what are the issues. And we didn't know, this is a new program. We have no idea how many months, because it's more of a not staffing issue right now. It's more of a need, continuous need. We thought at this point we will be almost over, and people just back when that happened. It's still happening, unfortunately. So we are definitely working to that. 4 months right now has helped tremendously. So it's trickling down a lot. So and hopefully, and we're ready to make adjustments if need be. I mean, it's everything within HUD constraints and requirements. We will continue to move as much as possible to be able to make it easier for landlords and tenants to receive assistance. Right, Daniel?
Yeah, I have a question. I heard on the news today is the last day for Pelosi and Mnuchin to figure out the new stimulus package. If people get that, will that affect them in this CARES plan at all, one way or the other?
Right now, on the last we heard from HUD, if they already received the stimulus check, $1,200 or so, that's not factored into the income. So we only use the income like continuously. So that's not factored into their income.
Okay.
Yeah. So no, there are things I hesitated. If they receive there's certain things they're not even counting right now unless we get there. And I would say right now because HUD could come up with different. They were not even counting that extra income they gave from the unemployment at that time when we started the program. It was straight what I used to make
Right.
for income. So we have a little room on that. Things could change. We just get the direction from HUD. So we'll see. But hopefully that because we have 11.3 million, and as you guys see, if it starts picking up, when we conquer the challenge of getting people through faster, we're like, yay, but then we had the problem, then we're gonna run out of money quicker. And there might be more money down the pipeline. So those negotiations are still very crucial, and we're definitely looking at it because to see if they allocate more funds that then the city could allocate towards that. So because right now we have a 11.3, and then after that, we'll wait and see. But right now we're good. But yeah.
Question.
Thank you.
Just piggybacking off of something Eugene said. So when Eden comes in, the landlord is probably already under stress and duress. Now Eden comes in, they want to inspect what are they looking for? That would disqualify them receiving rental assistance.
Well, these are set criteria for home funding that they're just enforcing from HUD. And there's specific things. I mean, it could be latch in the door. It could be paint chip. It's different from like even the city. I mean, it's their standard, just that HUD requires. So if they don't meet they don't pass the inspection, and to be honest, a lot of people are not passing the inspection. That's one of the problems. And landlords and tenants stop the process. A lot of the main problem, they either don't pass. Once they go to, they ask for all these things. It's overwhelming. I mean, even for many of us, it's like getting bank statements and pay stubs. So they're having a problem with not even answering back or continuing, even though there is a need and the landlord's still waiting. So they do get the 4 months. I mean, that's the check. It's in the mail. They got it for the 4 months. So now it's like, now what? So it is a difficult situation. But that's how they get the funding, but it's more difficult. But this is for after the 4 months of emergency assistance, which is basically you're stating by perjury of law, you're signing, this is my income. I'm just letting you know. Yeah, this is COVID. And it's pretty easy for the 4 months. So we did our best to make it as easy as possible that way. But if they need more, we're working through the challenges. And now, to be honest, we are really seeing how this works because most people were still in the first few months. As time passes, more people would actually have the need, because we started anyone experiencing trouble paying the rent in April 1st. So now we're starting to see people that need more than 4 months. If it becomes a huge challenge, we'll see what we could do, rework it. One of the things we did, for example, we did increase from 3 months to 4 months of emergency, but we're restricted. It's not always the city deciding, or even, and they implement what we tell them. It's more HUD and the federal government guidance. So the more strict they are, the more they need. You have to follow that in order to get that money. So we'll see. I'm just hoping they see the need, and things will get better, so we're able to help more residents.
Okay, thank you, Maria.
Maria, can you share the PowerPoint presentation with the board?
Yeah, email it. Yeah, I'll email it after. Then let me go back. I'm seeing. I think I have, yeah.
Eugene, I think you're still on mute if you're trying to talk.
Oh, someone, we're good. I think that's all from my part.
Is the RFP still on hold due to the federal regulations being kind of to be determined? Okay, thank you.
It's not required right now, so we're not spending the money, but we're working at, we know what we need to do. So we're definitely, but yeah, so we'll see. That's all up in the air. Right now, it's just not required. So we're waiting to see what happens. Yeah, I'm just checking my agenda, and yeah, that was the last thing, and I just sharing that the next meeting, Tuesday the 17th, ideally at 12, that we normally do it. Today I had all morning, and we didn't know when we were gonna go, and we had several questions. So I appreciate you guys allowing me to start at 12:30. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm done with my part.
A couple more questions, if it's okay. So with the new director coming on board, the analysis of impediment, like determination for the city of Cleveland, is an important thing. And so even if we kind of get vague guidelines from HUD, something we want to pursue in 2021. And I think that might be a good thing for us to talk to the new director about, so that when they're going in and planning budgets for 2021, that this could be a line item for them.
To that point, had throughout some conversations, the director is actually the assistant director, so he's one
So he's been appointed.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just temporary, like for now, and it might be indefinitely. Sometimes, for as soon as she steps out at the end of this week, assistant director takes over, and it's seamless because he's actually our guru for anything hard and things like that I normally go to. So I could already answer that, and I report directly to him and work closely with this and everything, because all my programs are from the federal government. They're HUD related, so he's perfect in those terms. So where we are, literally the Obama era regulations and completely wiped out. So there's nothing to do or submit, like HUD. We don't know where we are now. That's just a document and a study. We'll continue to move forward and do everything that we have to do in terms of with even the impediments that have been already identifying. And usually one of the main ones, and I heard like 20, like probably over 100 since when I started throughout the cities. And one of the problems, one of the main impediments that I see across is the lack of knowledge. And that's why, you guys be knowledgeable and taking that time of letting people know there are protections out there. That's one of the main things. And, continuing that work, continuing everything else. The fact that I'm helping to run a lot of these programs, it was in a way intentional because I had that background of fair housing, a legal background. So if I see anything, I'm there. So wall is being created. So we're definitely moving towards and continue to move towards regardless of the requirements. Anything else, like an actual document or anything. It was just something before I needed to submit in order to get something. If it's not a requirement, we're probably not going to incur that extra cost. We could use it for other things. Hopefully, when we have so many ideas of doing a little convention or doing a little something for Fair Housing Months in the future that we had talked about. I know since I started, but all the other things have been put on hold. So perhaps it could be used later. In terms of money, I was told it's already in the works. Like if we need to do something required, not a problem. I mean, we will get the funds. That was like not a problem. It will be found somewhere, allocated. It will be done. That has never been an issue. It was more a matter of, do we need to do it? They require. Do they even want it at this point? So and not just anything federal. You cannot do less than, because they supersede everything, but you can always do more. And in the city, we definitely have stronger for housing, and we have many things that we exceed the minimum requirement. So, okay.
Thank you. Well, with that information, maybe it's that Director Walker could join us for November's board meeting, and so we could introduce ourselves and kind of say hello. But I still, to that point, I think it is important that budgets are being defined. It may be not a need at this point in time, but I agree with you that education is important, and as well as doing that sampling and kind of analyzing the city as a whole. So
yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. So I'll invite him in. I know he'll be overwhelmed. So if not, November, as soon as I could get him to come and introduce himself, yes, that will be great. Another thing I was going to say, we are using city funds and to further fair housing in another way. Remember, we gave a grant to the Fair Housing Center, which it's helping tremendously right now to help residents and also work, because now I'm very limited where I can go. I used to be out all the time. Like now it's like I go home so early. Well, I'm home already, but I used to be out, so many evenings and events and letting people know. So I'm limited, how many Zoom meetings I could be in, but they do a lot. So we're always doing things. So money, again, above and beyond what we are supposed to, we are definitely moving that forward. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, so I think I'm done with my part.
Okay. The chair will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second it.
I got
Daniel.
yes.
Daniel,
Y'all
do
have
we
a
want to
great
just bring-
weekend. Happy Halloween.
Gio, go ahead.
Stay safe.
Go out and vote.
Yes.
Peace.
All right.
I voted. I voted.
Okay, there's something out going director.
We are out at 1:29. Thank you, gentlemen.
Keep safe.
Thank you, Maria.
Stay safe.
Thank you.